a former president of the Nigerian Senate. Dr. Olubukola Saraki has told the Arise News why Nigeria needs innovative financing model to deal with livestock farming, which could help save the country billions of dollars in dairy imports. I caught up with Dr. Saraki, who was a former Kwara State governor in Abuja last week at the Agric Bank annual meetings, and we began our conversation on the strategic Agric revolution that started some 20 years ago in Kwara State.
Important sectors. Where you talk agriculture, mineral development. Have you seen the oil and gas sector? These are sectors that required huge capital. They are not short-term projects. They're not 90 days, 60 days cycles. They're years. And as such, you need institutions like this that will develop it. Secondly, and more important, that you need the government policies that make it possible for that to happen. Let me take agriculture, for example. I know way back over, well, it's a long time now, when I was governor, over 12 years ago, when I became governor, and one of the things we realized in my state was that we had to take agriculture from peasant farming to commercial farming in order to truly boost productivity, increase dairy production yield, etc.
And all that, yes.
And in doing that, for example, one of the things that came to mind was dairy production. We have a huge import bill on importation of milk, whether it's in powdered forms, this kind of
liquid form.
Why? And I went through so much, the bottleneck to fight the institution. Then under late President Yar'Adua to try and do backward integration. I said, listen, no, we must begin to produce milk locally in Nigeria. Because what is powder milk? Powder milk is just milk that has been heated up, packaged for export and to the Nigerian market. So at that time, we worked with the Zimbabwe farmers to bring in cattle that will start producing milk. But the cost of the milk compared to the cost of the powder milk, there was no way those businesses could survive. And that is where one of the conversations we're having here. For as long as Nigeria is a dumping ground, where in countries where it's cheaper, they have subsidies in their countries. Most of the European countries, all the farm produce are subsidized. So we have to see how do we protect our farmers, backward integration to milk production. And we saw that by doing it, you could empower a lot of people. I'm just using that example, but they needed finance. The dairy needs finance, the machinery for oil production needs finance.
Yes.
And this is the kind of examples where banks like Agric and many more of them can help that growth. And why it's good in the area of agriculture is that it has multiplier effect on the community. Like the community where we had the cooperation with the Zimbabwe farmers, their lifestyle, the quality of life, their buying power was more than neighboring communities that did not see the opportunity. So what we need to do is to see that agriculture is not, it's a business. We should see it from a business point of view.
Yes.
A business where farmers should be able to go with their laptop, sit beside institutions like this, and seek for huge financing.
Do you think, Your Excellency, that the local financial institutions, we can catalyze some local capital?
No. We had problems with the local banks. A lot of the banks, first of all, will not touch agriculture. They will prefer to take their capital into trade finance. Despite government policy, there was a reluctance. Bring the security, bring that security. Where would a farmer get all the security from? So from day one, it was an uphill task for a lot of the farmers. It has to be development finance from government plus serious investors. And government needs to address those who are importing that, no, you know what, you can't just be dumping powdered milk in my country. I'm ready to support you. Go and get land and go and start producing dairy production. And I'm sure in 3-5 years' time, like the way we were in cement, up to the point of President Obasanjo, we are bringing in back cement.
Yes.
Now, as you heard today,
we roll back.
Same we can do on dairy import. Dairy, I think dairy import now must be close to $1 billion. If I can remember, now I'm sure it's close to that. Look, why? We've got the cattle everywhere. All we just need to bring machinery, backward integration, and over time, we'll be totally dependent
Well, do you think some of this need to happen at the federal level or at the subnational level?
Federal, subnational, because there's anything subnational cannot do. Subnational cannot control tariff. So one of the struggles we had when I was governor was, yes, the farmers were doing their best, but the cost of a liter of milk was 3 times the cost of importing the powdered milk from New Zealand or Australia.
Yes.
So they couldn't survive. So then the finance to do it, where will subnational get that? So I think it's a collaboration, and I think from my experience, it has to be a collaboration between federal and states as a government priority that, you know what, in 3 years' time, our objective in this country is we're going to be self-sufficient in milk production.
Well, in what further areas, Your Excellency, would you like to see reforms on the economic macro level front? We were pushing a few things on the macro level to begin to touch people at the bottom of the pyramid.
Well, it's exactly what we're talking about.
Yes, agro-allied. Yes.
Agro-allied.
Yes.
Even mineral production, solid mineral production, again, we begin to see a lot of those activities, but again, it's not organized in the sense that there must be added value. Now you just see people, peasant miners going there, scraping in, and just exporting the raw product. That's not going to help us. A lot of the minerals should be processed. So we should be telling people that, fine, get this mineral, but let's process it, add value, and then we export. Otherwise, what we're going to see years come by is that people are just going to come, take something like lithium, as opposed to processing it into lithium oxide or whatever we want to use it for as an end product. So that is where there will be impact on a lot of different societies. But the key issue is largely policy and finance. That's from my experience that I saw it being as governor. It hasn't changed now. We still need to see that import substitution, that's what you want to call it, is not the way forward. We have to produce ourselves majority of the things that we need.
So for Kwara State, what else would you like to see in terms of transformation?
Our positional strength, you know, as I said, if we can contribute to being self-sufficient on our agriculture, that will empower a lot of people in Kwara State. Secondly, one of the things we also observe is irrigation. You'll be surprised that if you look along the River Niger axis, there are not many irrigation projects that are sustainable. So we're still depending on rain-fed agriculture. You can't do that in today's world. So again, government and federal government need to invest heavily in irrigation. We already got River Niger there to aid and ensure that we have farming all through the year. So our farmers are just waiting, oh, how was the rain this year? It can't be like, do you understand? The attitude and the approach has to come from a business point of view. And then also, government needs to encourage, it's not so much because you come from Kwara. If you are a big investor in agriculture, we should be able to go and develop different parts of the country, sitting with the governors, because it's now a national project.
Yeah.
We should not see them as small pocket projects. We need huge projects with huge investment
that
can make an impact. Then the smaller farmers will piggyback on it, because a lot of, even if you take dairy, all the foodstuff, all the cassava, the maize that has to feed into the cattle, that's where the small farmers will piggyback on that demand.
Right.
I don't know if you get it.
Yes, I do.
So
Yes, I do.
pull everybody along
Yes.
out of poverty. But that needs a lot of capital, a lot of planning, a lot of hard work.
And that's something you're doing on the political side, on the economic investment side, on some of these things you talked about since you left the press.
Is there any opportunity to get
the message out?
To pay the message out for people to understand this is what we need to do. And I think, again, sometimes what happens is that the conversation sometimes is always too much political. And people don't sometimes sit back and say, okay, to achieve what? And let's talk about where we're trying to go, whether you're on the private sector side, on public sector side. And that's why these kind of opportunities that brings both the private sector who are there and those in government or policy makers together for the objective of making the country a better country. We can't do it alone. The business people can't do it alone. As you've seen the impact, seeing today what government policies are turned from businesses that are about to collapse and turn them around just because the right policies were done. And on the other side, government understanding what the needs of the private sector are. So that is the kind of advocacy, any opportunity we get to let people know.
High-profile individuals like yourself don't just turn up at a big event like this without a reason. Tell me.
That's the reason. The reason is to learn. The reason to understand what are the issues. Because as we go on, we hope that we'll continue to play our role in advocating for the right policies. And to do that, you got to understand, because the policies are for the players.
Yes.
If you don't understand what their issues are, then how do you promote the right kind of policies? So there's nothing more than that.
So what further role would you be playing in the political space for Nigeria as part of your advocacy?
Part of advocacy is to continue to see that we get the right kind of governance. We ensure that the right kind of policies are pushed through. And if there are wrong policies that we don't agree, we know that cannot work, we speak from a position of experience, from a position of knowledge. I haven't had haven't been lucky enough, I would say, and with the opportunity my state and the country has given me to have been on both sides of the divide, seeing government at the executive level, subnational, seeing the legislation of law. So, and also being a private sector, I've seen how all these three need to come together in order for us to make our country grow. And that's what we need to be doing now, to focus on how do we make Nigeria and Africa. Because if Africa grows, also Nigeria grows as well.
If there is another opportunity for you to be at a higher executive level, would you go for it?
I was trying to hold our conversations to what we're here for. And I see every time I run away from it, you're pulling me back on that side. I'm here to attend the affects him. So
when we see individuals, when we see high-profile individuals like yourself at this ring, and I go, you've got so much experience, and I mentioned Broad Street, and I'm sure you used to be all the while in Lagos with the banking system, the finance, and all of that, and then at the political level. So you've seen both sides, or as it were. So that's a lot of experience and goodwill and pedigree that you bring to the table to get the conversation on, to see where it's governance in the country.
We must ensure that private sector and government are working closely together.